This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Sean Preston.
Welcome, everybody, to the Good Neighbor Podcast. Today we have a phenomenal neighbor on board with us. Her name is Laura Fess from VOX Mental Health. How are you, dear?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing phenomenal. How was your Easter weekend?
It was fun. I have 3 little minions, so it was very busy with chocolate and Easter bunnies and hunts and the whole 9 yards. So we're recovering today, basically.
Very cool. Yeah, so am I. I wish I still did the Easter things, but if you could just, they fit beers in those, in those eggs, and then they go around. I seen that on social media. I handed it over to Julie, and I'm like, hey, this for next year. Can you do this for me?
Yes, that's awesome. Sounds very PG, Yeah,
very PG, definitely. So we haven't seen each other in a little while, but had a chance to connect before. So super excited to have you on the show, because when I first met you, me and you hit it off pretty good. So I've been looking forward to this conversation. Why don't we go ahead and dive right in? For the listeners who don't know, let's tell us a little bit more about your business.
Yeah, so I'm the clinical director of VOX Mental Health. So it's a group practice, a team of therapists, all registered social workers, which is a very specific training background, different than maybe other mental health practitioners. And we support families, individuals, couples, kids as young as 8 years old. And it's an honor, absolute honor to get to hear people's stories. We named the organization VOX, which is Latin for voice. Okay. Because we believe in the power of storytelling, and that depending on the life story we've lived through, a lot of us can lose our voice, right? So our little slogan is reclaim your voice, retell your story. And that's the heart of what we do. So yeah, that's VOX.
Cool. Very nice. Okay. So, we haven't had a whole lot of, social workers, therapy, mental health, kind of that general. I work with one hand in hand, been to one as well too, been into my own therapy session. So I'm starting to, I got like a decent little grasp on it, but I like to unpack the start of every interview, because sometimes it's easy to just say what you do, but we really want to try to dive deep and understand, really what it is, or how can I relate if I'm a listener on the show. Do I know anybody I could refer? That's the whole point of doing the show. Spread the message of your awesome business, and make sure that we can get in front of the people who actually need the service, or at least at a very least to educate a little bit more in case we ever do need it in the future. So, okay, so let's say you said as young as 8. Yeah. And you mentioned couples. So is this a very broad, I don't want to stroke your business with a broad brush here. I want to kind of unpack it a little bit. So can we go into some details of what maybe makes you guys a bit different from the traditional, business that's out there, and what makes you guys different?
So it probably sounds like a very broad brush, but it is in the sense that there's 7 different practitioners on our team. And so every practitioner has their own unique training and their own unique specialties. And so I'm trained in different couples interventions, as well as EMDR, which is a trauma reprocessing kind of intervention, whereas other individuals on the team specialize in eating disorders. One individual specializes in chronic pain, which is a massive field when it comes to endurance for your mental health when you're living with pain every single day. And so it's a broad brush in one sense, and yet very specific when we look at each individual practitioner. Something that's great about our team members is that I would say about 98% of extended health benefit plans cover our services. And so the term psychotherapy is one that a number of different practitioners have licensed. We're allowed to say that. We're allowed to say we do the controlled active psychotherapy, but not everyone who's allowed to do psychotherapy is covered. Registered social workers with a master's, who's our whole team, are covered. So if individuals have extended health benefits, then they can access our services and then go through the 7 practitioners on the team and see who is the right fit for you. Whether it's their specialties or even personality. I like to tell people that finding a therapist is like finding a good pair of jeans. Jean shopping is not everyone's favorite thing to do. And sometimes you can go try it on and maybe even buy it but it's crunchy, or you don't like the texture, and they sit in your closet and you're like, I mean, I bought the jeans, I have the jeans, but I'm literally never going to wear them. And sometimes finding a therapist is kind of like jean shopping. People do therapy, they've gone, and it just sits in their closet because it actually wasn't useful or helpful to them. And so that's what I would say. All of our services are covered. If you have a extended health benefit plan, I would say at least 98% cover us. And we also have a lot of jeans that you can try on, different practitioners with unique specialties, and we'll work with you to find the right fit, because we really believe in the power of you having a place to tell your story.
So you listed 3 or 4 there. Are you able to list the others? Because I think that was really nice. If whoever's listening, on all these different kind of areas that you guys cover, right?
Yeah. So one great thing about our website is you can actually go through every single service that is offered, and then it will link you to the practitioners that are trained in that. But some of the things that come off the top of my head are ADHD, specifically adult diagnosis of ADHD, which we're seeing such a increase in, anxiety, depression. We do a lot with frontline responders, right? So whether it's paramedicine, doctors, nurses, surgeons, we work a lot with teachers, other unique specialties, parenting. And I know that sounds like a funny thing to have in the mental health category, but we have incredible members of our team that can wrap around parents as they work through navigating these little humans whose brains are not developed and yet have big, high emotions. And I guess another really unique one that we do is infidelity recovery, which is a very unique intervention that really helps families when they're going through couples work. So yeah, there's a ton of different, I probably have 20 different specialties on the website, but again, it's very user-friendly. You can go there and it'll tell you which practitioners, like eating disorders, only one practitioner on our team is trained in eating disorder intervention. And you'd be able to click and find who that is and book directly online. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I got the info I wanted.
Yeah, lots of good stuff, right?
I've been doing this long enough now. I pride myself on extracting information from human beings that could be relevant for other people to listen. That was very much on point. Very good.
Oh, good.
Okay, so have you always kind of been, were you born to do this? Have you always done this? Everyone's got a journey. Sometimes it's linear. Other times it's like the Mazda commercial where you're just all over the place. And then you finally land on what you're doing. And I know that you're very passionate about what you do and you love what you do. Mm-hmm. And so what does that journey look like? How and why did you get into doing what you do?
Well, I would put it out there as a theory that I think everyone that gets into being in the helping profession probably has lived through a story themselves. So I would just say I have, my own trauma story that I survived and lived through. And as a young person, when I was trying to navigate, like, what am I interested in? Am I interested in cars? Am I interested in that tech? What am I interested in? It just came back to humans. And I didn't know really how to say that in like grade 10 careers classes. Like, I like people. And they'd be like, yeah, next, It's like, no, like, I really do. And so I think it was kind of an amalgamation of surviving my own life story, promising to myself that I would never diminish what someone is going through just because I didn't understand it or write it off, and a deep desire to work with people, kind of put the 2 and 2 together. I never thought I would own my own business necessarily, but my dad's an entrepreneur and I grew up thinking that was normal. So back in 2020, when the world shut down, it was one of those times. I think deep down I thought, well, the world's ending anyway, so why not just like take the biggest risk and try? And so VOX started in 2021, because at that point, if you fail, the world could end before anyone knows. So, but yeah, I think it's that combination of a life lived, loving people, and a dad who said, come on, you can do it. Just do it. So.
Very nice. And now you have 18 different people working under you. That's pretty.
Well, seven people, but a lot of specialties.
Well, even at 7, what an accomplishment.
The team is amazing, to be honest. So yeah, it's a team effort, group effort.
Well, like, look, I hear it all the time. Like, you know how many business owners I get to talk to and how many I get to sit down with on a month-to-month basis.
Yeah.
And I hear the same stuff out there. It's hard to find people. It's hard to find good quality people. And you're talking over a very large spectrum where there's availability or should be availability for those roles. But whether, the people don't want to work or whether they're not doing it the right way or the wrong way or whatever the case is, it's still difficult and you still keep hearing it over and over. But you've managed to find a group of 7, and let alone have to have a really high degree of skill required with a master's. Like, that's an accomplishment in itself.
Yeah. My theory is I deeply, deeply, deeply respect the members on our team and their unique specialties. And I think that they know that. And I'm willing to do whatever it takes to create an environment where they can absolutely thrive. So some of the clinical director part that I play is really doing that support role in the background. Actually, one of my favorite documentaries recently was the Beckham documentary. And I don't care about sports. I know it's horrible. I don't. And I don't even know the name of anyone else on the documentary, but there was a gentleman that is always interviewed, and he was the guy that was always behind Beckham, kicking the ball to him. And that's his role. And you would think when they do interviews with this guy that he'd be a little bit maybe jaded or jealous, there's Beckham getting all of the, awards, all the accolades, and I'm just the guy kicking to him, and no one's giving me credit for that. And yet that was never his tone. I thought, I watched that documentary and I thought, that to me is a leader. It is someone who is not insecure, they're not territorial, and they have no problem passing the ball to someone who can kill it. And that's how I feel about the people on our team is I will pass you the ball. I know what I'm good at and I stick to my area, but their unique specialties, I want to do everything I can to support them to say, hey, you go, I pass it to you, run. And so, I can't say enough about the team members and really grateful that they've chosen VOX. And my husband always says, a good leader anticipates that people will leave, so they try to keep them there. An incredible leader knows that they will, right? And so it's just a matter of, hey, while you're on the team, let's make something incredible. Let's impact the community. And if you get someone on the team has a book deal right now. The person on the team is literally publishing research.
Wow.
So it's one of those things in life. If someone is in your court for a little minute, we appreciate each other, learn what we can, and pass the ball and say, go for it. I got your back. Yeah. I'd rather be that part of someone's story than someone who stole or took, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I love my team so much. So.
Oh, very good. You could definitely, I can feel it over here through the camera when you're saying all that stuff. So
I have to Google the Beckham guy, the guy that passed. See, isn't that also offensive? It's like, she's so inspired by this guy, she still doesn't even know his name.
Hey, the message got put across, and sometimes that's all that really matters. But hey, he went his whole career no one really knowing his name, and you didn't know it either. So that guy's not
inspired.
So tell me, are there any misconceptions or misnomers out there in your field?
So mental health and misconceptions. Talk about stigma around mental health. And yes, I think it's an emphatic all exclamation mark, capital letter. Yes, there is tons. And so there's a few big ones. I think the one when it comes to what we do, which is like a private practice setting, is people thinking that therapy is only beneficial when you're in absolute crisis. And it's of course beneficial when you're in absolute crisis, but that's not the only time that it's helpful. And I like to explain it let's say you got into a car accident and you severely damaged your car. And so you take it to the shop and it's all hands on deck. There's body work, there's mechanical, there's the computer stuff, there's paint, there's glass, and it's a very intense kind of season to get you back on the road. But then once you're on the road, there is still, you could hit a pothole, or you just need an oil change, or it's time to switch out for winter tires. And I think that what we're removing when it comes to the stigma of mental health and understanding therapy is realizing that I may not be in absolute crisis, but I've hit a season change. It's going from summer to winter. And I can tell that there's an adjustment that I need to make. So that could be like I became a parent, or my kids graduated college and my identity is suffering. You know, a car accident situation could look like infidelity, like, whoa, we are in crisis and we don't even know where to go. And so, yeah, it's not just for crisis, I would say, and that there's something so powerful about including your mental well-being in the holistic expression of like your whole, your physical, the food that you eat, the sleep that you're getting, you know, the content that you're taking in every day, the algorithm that is, you know, telling you what you believe, just adding self-reflection and intervention for your mental health as part of that.
Yeah, definitely. It's a journey, right? And people go through things on a monthly basis, and everybody's got a little bit of something. For anybody to say, I don't need therapy, I used to be that guy.
Yeah.
I used to be that guy to say, no, I'm just gonna, you know, I can handle it. I can soak it in. And then I finally went, and she's actually a client of mine, so I get to see her a little bit more on the regular. And this is where, you know, education is power, knowledge is power. And this is one of the things I love about having this conversation right now, is to educate people so that they can understand that everybody's going through a form of whatever. And like you said, it's not just, oh, when something happens to me. It's good to go on a regular basis. And if you have a good pair of jeans and you want to wear them all the time and you feel comfortable about wearing them, and then they're going to last a long time as well too, because you're properly taking care of them, et cetera, and going through the motions of what's happening in life. Like, it is such a complex world out there, and all these social dynamics and everything that's going on in the world. We could have a separate and multitude of information and podcasts about just that alone. But having somebody to be able to talk about and then compartmentalize all of that information so that you can process that and move forward in life, it's like, it's crucial, man.
Well, and just to add to that, like that, the idea of being a failure or it being weak, it's funny because when we think about other things that we do to make ourselves healthy and thrive, you know, if I go for a nice long walk on a sunny day, I don't come home with my community of people around me going, you are such a failure. Did you just go for a walk? Are you so weak? You couldn't just, like, you know, never. I've never experienced that, actually. You know, if I went for a run, if I chose like a really healthy way to nourish my body, if I took rest and solitude and like did things that were really healthy for me, no one is saying, wow, you're really weak, eh?
Right.
And yet the stigma of mental health is still so powerful, is that we think like I'm taking care of me, my story, my mind. And there's this fear that would be like someone like, you're failing. Right. And I think that's worth challenging. It's like, what? No, I'm owning my story. I'm going for the blind spots. I'm looking into what makes me the healthiest version of me. Why do I have these symptoms that are pervasive that I am not enjoying? Right. And just the realization, I don't have to live like this forever. It's pretty powerful. So yeah.
Yeah. And there's adverse effects to not going, because, you know, some people go and they treat other people the wrong way because they can't deal with their own stuff. And and instead of people frowning upon it or looking on it like it's a thing of weakness, we're all humans, and everybody complains about the world being a shitty place, because it is. But it's conversations like this, and it's the goodwill that you do that help humans and help their brain so they can compartmentalize this, so they can go back to being human and being the best versions of themselves. Because if they're best versions of themselves, they're going to treat other people the way they want to be treated, which means it's going to be a lot of happier place and a lot more happy people around. And I don't know about anybody else, but if you're not on video right now, I'm raising my right hand saying, I'd like to be a part of that world, please.
Yeah, totally. I think it's the realization that everyone has a story. And even the grumpy Gus at the Food Basics, who's, yelling at the 14-year-old, who I'm always like, I'm so sorry. But you know what? they're maybe going through something. Maybe that's the first day that they stepped outside of their house after losing a child, and it's not okay to be cruel. But I think the more that we can open our minds up to, like, everyone has a story, everyone is surviving, everyone is living through something. The opportunity for like Barrie, Midhurst, Simcoe County, York Region, like the opportunity for it to be kindness that we default to, and not, I know that sounds very like placating, like everyone just be kind. I don't mean that in a passive way, right? I mean it from the genuine place of like, they must be going through something, to have a positive sentiment towards people that overrides, you know, when we need each other.
Yeah, totally. 100%. I couldn't agree more. Okay, so you're out there doing that goodwill, doing what you do, you know, passionate you are as a business owner, as a mom, the whole bit. So when you're not working on the business or in the business, what do you like to do for fun?
I like to run. So that's why I'm like, no one's called me a failure yet. I love being in nature. Anything, hiking, swimming, running, bike riding, anything. Even in a blizzard, I am there. My neighbors all send me videos of me walking at 10 p.m. covered head to toe in a -40 blizzard, because they're like, it's your mental health walk. I'm like, you bet it is, you know, 10 p.m. in a blizzard. So anything outdoors makes me like just overwhelmed with happiness. So
when the kids are older, are you gonna do some camping with them? Are you guys into that kind of stuff?
Oh, we camp. Like I had 2 kids. I went for 21 days camping.
Yeah.
This year is the second year with 3 kids, and we're only doing a week. So
you're gonna still take them out there. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, and do you know what? I call it wildhood, right? There's childhood where your kid is like a brand and an aesthetic and everything matches. I just cannot get my stuff together enough for that to be the case. My children may be the ones that look incredibly homeless at the park, but they are having a blast. They are dirty, they're exploring, they're creating, and camping is like the best avenue for wildhood. Frogs, you know, digging and bike rides, and love it.
I did all that stuff growing up as a kid. I definitely will be doing that when I have kids. Happy that you're doing it with your kids. It's the best way. It's such a great way to grow up, especially like take away the phones, take away the digital stuff. If you have that as a root, one of your roots growing up, it just makes you a better human being, in my opinion.
It's so fun. Well, and it just allows, like, there's so many happy chemicals that get released in our body when we're moving and we're outside, and if we do it with someone we love. Basically, every happy chemical that your brain naturally creates will just right? Yeah. So when you think about those moments in your childhood, that's probably a lot of that nostalgic feeling in your body, is like, it was so good, and then it was also so good. Right? Yeah,
and too, like, it's good if your kids shove their face in the mud, because then they're not going to get sick as much. It helps the immune system, right?
I mean, I'm running with that theory as they have snot dripping 24/7. I'm like, it's natural, it's fine, you know?
Yeah, totally. Do you guys do fishing at all?
My son fishes with a fake fish. We are downtown at the waterfront in Barrie, I would say 2 to 3 days a week, with a fake fish on a reel that he casts out and reels in, and it's red, and he is thrilled every time that he catches it. Nice. So we fake fish all the time. And then my husband has his fishing license. I don't have mine, but they will go with the uncles and all of it. Yeah, but the fake fish seems to be working for now.
Very nice. Well, if you guys are ever going to go on like a roughing it trip, you got to let me know. I got to bring you to a cool spot. Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome.
Okay, so maybe let's switch gears here. Maybe we'll go a little bit more on a serious note. But sometimes life will kind of shove us in directions. They kind of poke and prod to it. You alluded to something earlier in the show that you went through a life experience, and I'm impressed at the resiliency of human beings and how they overcome that. Obviously, it's hard to do it on your own. We're revealing through these conversations that there's always a support system around you. You need to have that support system. Getting and reaching for help, talking about that to help get through that. But nonetheless, we go through it, and those are serious things. Those are real things, but it also helped us understand the resilience of those people, and helps everybody who listens to those stories have a little bit more of a deeper and meaningful connection to those humans. And that's what we like to do on the show, is try to go deep. Jeff's really good at it. I'm still learning.
Yes,
And
I love
so,
it.
have you ever experienced a hardship or a life challenge that you overcame and maybe because of it made you stronger, made you better for it?
Yeah, like I said earlier, and I am an open book, and so if anyone that listened to this because of curiosity or whatever was like, I would like to know specifically what you mean by a trauma story, I would be a totally open book with them. I wouldn't share the content on your podcast for the sake of trigger warnings required for humans, but what I would say is from the age of 2 till 5, I experienced some pretty severe trauma as a kid, and was involved in court testifying. A plea was taken, jail time, obviously not me, I was the child. All of these things happened, uprooted a family, community, just, all the stuff. And I wouldn't say that because I went through that, it's made me stronger. I just don't think anyone should have to go through that. I don't think you need to be that strong. I don't think you should ever have to, be whatever. Because I think sometimes we can use something that's called spiritual bypassing, which can be about a specific religious concept or just a spiritual concept in general, where it's like, well, you overcame. And so because of that, so I don't believe in that by any means. But I can see how being aware of my own story and my own journey gives me empathy for basically any story. And the really believing people, like at the get-go, not you've got to prove it to me, but believing people at the very beginning when they say, I've been through something, that I can instantly validate it and show up for them. And I think that in the profession I'm in now, where we are really honored sometimes to hear someone say something out loud for the first time in their whole life. They've never told a person, never told a soul. And I think people can tell when they're shopping for jeans, when they're jean shopping for a therapist. I do think that they can tell right off the bat. And to be honest, a client would never know my story, because when you come as a client, it's about you, right? So the therapist I'm not going to be like, oh, well, actually, let me tell you my story. No, that actually stays completely outside of the room. But I think what they can tell in the moment is there's a compassion and an empathy that is here. And I think they'll default to, not that Laura gets what I've gone through or that the team members get what they've gone through, but we are totally fine to stand with them as witnesses and say, I believe you instantly. I validate it instantly. And guess what? We're going to make it through. Right. And I think they can tell. It's like, oh, we are. It's like, yeah, we are. So yeah, I don't know if that answers the question totally.
No, it does. It does. And it's good. I mean, for people listening on the show, I've heard it probably one too many time, and every time after that is one too many time, where somebody went to therapy and that they weren't able to land on the person where I went, and then it doesn't work, so that they stop, and and then they're not getting help, and then it drags on, and you're just watching this, and it's like, and then they finally go back again after way too length of a time, and you can see the change and the difference, and understanding that, and having to go back for a different reason because the other person didn't find it out in the first place because they weren't the right one. And, so it's important that people know and understand those things, that they feel comfortable that if they're going to go to VOX Mental Health, that it's an open space to tell stuff for the first time, maybe, which I could totally try to relate to the best I can, but I would just imagine being in that room, having the confidence and the confidant of the other person in order for them to divulge that information and be able to share that. And then having that power in your hands of being able to help that person through, that must be a pretty cool feeling.
Yeah, there's something like, it's like an honor every single day, every single hour sounds just like language. And I don't know how to communicate it more than language, but hopefully people can get a sense where it's like, no, this is a powerful thing that can happen in a room over a screen, right? It's and the fundamental and core to it is the belief that every single story matters.
Yeah. 100%.
Right. And every life matters. And, we've heard horror stories of people who have tried therapy 10 years prior, shared their life story, and the therapist ended up bawling. And then the client felt like they had to help the therapist. Right?
Oh, man.
And to be honest, Sean, you'd be shocked and horrified how many times we hear that story. Right. And so I think when I talk about jean shopping, it sounds kind of cute, but I really mean for people to have every right to go, I'm going to be really picky about what I put on here. I'm going to be picky about what's the best fit for me. And if you've had an experience that just made you go, oh yeah, then I would really want people to know that doesn't mean that you did therapy wrong or that you're so broken that not even a therapist could help.
Right.
No, it actually probably had nothing to do with you. And it just was about the fit. The fit wasn't right.
What's one thing that you wish that listeners knew about your business? Would that be it? Or do you have something else?
Oh yeah, I think that would be it. Come as you are. You don't have to have it all sorted out. Judgment-free environment. Confidentiality is the key, right? We keep things, confidentiality being that you have a private space that unless we're subpoenaed by a court or something illegal is going to happen, it stays there, right? And yeah, I would say just watch us hear your story and watch the power of being witnessed and just what that can do to start something for you. So.
Very cool. And if anybody was interested in wanting to know more, get a hold of you guys, what's the best way that they could do that?
I mean, our website is voxmentalhealth.com or Instagram. I should know this. I think it's also just at VOX Mental Health. And I'm sure there's other platforms, but I'd say those two would probably be the most accessible and consistent.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and telling your story. Great individual, great story, lovely family.
Thank you, Sean.
I've had the pleasure of being in your own home. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for doing this.
No worries. Bye, Sean.
I'll talk to you later.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast Midhurst. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpmidhurst.com. That's gnpmidhurst.com or call 705-413-3775.